Now, next up, now we have finished configuring Eclipse with the database. We have finished the database connection, Eclipse and database. Next up, let us take care of the Hibernate. Now, to install Hibernate, we had already seen that all you need to do is download these two zip files and unzip them. That's the installation of Hibernate. Now, we need to configure Eclipse and Hibernate. Now, how to configure Eclipse with Hibernate? To configure Eclipse with Hibernate, I'm going to create something called as a user library. Now, user library is nothing but like a folder that I'm going to create in Eclipse, and to the user library I'm going to add a lot of these jar files, all the Hibernate related jar files, and then I'm going to add that user library to the projects in Eclipse. Now let's go and see what are the jar files we need to add so that we can create this user library. Now go back to Eclipse, and in Eclipse, to create the user library, click on Windows, right on top, Preferences, and over here type something called User and select User Libraries. And now let us create a new user library. Click on this New, and here you can give any name for this library. It's basically a folder that I'm creating so that I can add all my jar files in Eclipse. So I'm going to say Hibernate 3.0 and then click OK. Now to this particular library, folder, I'm going to add all the Hibernate and Derby related jar files. So first is I need to add the Derby database related jar file. So click on Add Jars and select Derby client.jar. Click Open. Make sure that you keep selecting this Hibernate 3.0 every time you add jars. If your cursor is here, you won't be able to add the jars. So select Hibernate 3.0 once again and then click on Add Jars. Now go up a level. Now you can go to this Hibernate distribution folder, and in the Hibernate distribution folder select Hibernate 3.jar, click Open. Hibernate 3.0, click on Add Jars again. Go to this library folder, and in this required you may have to select all these jar files. You may need to pause the video here and just follow me, because I'll be a bit too fast in this adding the jar files. So let me increase the size so that you can see where exactly the jar files are located. Now after adding that, click on Hibernate 3.0, click on Add Jars, go back to lib and go to this bytecode and go to cglib and add this particular jar file too. Once you have added the jar file, go to Hibernate 3.0, click on Add Jars, go back to Downloads, and this time go to Hibernate Annotations, and in the Hibernate Annotations folder select this Hibernate Annotations.jar, add that, go back to Hibernate 3.0, add jars, and in this now go to the lib folder, and in the lib folder select this EJB3 persistence Hibernate common annotations and click Open. I need a few more jar files, and in the test folder we can add the sl4j log4j12.jar and log4j.jar, these two, and click Open. So totally there will be 14 jar files. So you can pause the video and then you can see where exactly they are located. There are 14 jar files, and all of them are required, maybe not for the first project, but then as and when we go you'll notice that those jar files are required. Okay, now click on OK. Now we have added all the jar files. Now the next step after adding the jar files is create the connection. That is, we have created the user library called Hibernate 3.0. Now we need to integrate this user library with Eclipse so that the Hibernate and Eclipse, there will be a connection between these two. So to integrate the user library with Eclipse, go back to your Java perspective. On the right hand side corner you can click here and then select like Java EE or Java, whichever, and you can go back to your project, and in your project right click on the project and click on properties. And once you click properties, over here you can select Java build path, the third one from the top, Java build path. Select libraries, and in this library we are going to add that user library. So click on add library button right here, and once you select add library, select user library, click next, and it will show you the user library that you just created, the Hibernate 3.0, and then click finish. The advantage of creating these user libraries and adding to the project is so that when you create another project, you don't have to like sit and add all the jar files. You don't have to go in search of those jar files. You can simply like go here and add this particular user library. So kind of a reusability. So once you select that and click OK, you should see that the Hibernate 3.0, the library has been added, and it has like the 14 jar files, or like it added a few more from Derby, so you don't have to worry about this. If you add Derby client.jar, it should have added all these other stuff. Okay, this is like we have finished the connection between Eclipse and Hibernate. Next we have to do the configuration between database and Hibernate. To do the configuration between database and Hibernate, we need to use something called as an Hibernate configuration file. So to do that connection, we need a hibernate.cfg.xml file. That's the file which is going to help us make the connection between database and Hibernate. Now for this hibernate.cfg.xml file, instead of sitting and writing one, it's an XML file, we can simply go and copy something which is existing. It comes with the download of this Hibernate distribution. If you go to this Hibernate distribution in your downloads folder, and if you go to projects, if you download it, it comes with like a few projects, test projects. Let's go and copy one, and then we will like format it according to our needs. And go to this tutorials and web and source, and then you can go to this main and resources. You may have to slow down the video to find out, and see, you can see that hibernate.cfg.xml and log4j properties file are there. Let's copy both of them. We will customize it to our needs later on. And right click on the source folder here in your Eclipse once you copied it, and click on paste. This is someone else's configuration file. We're just going to use this. You can just take it from the downloads.